I don't know how to be quiet.
I'm reassigning.
You don't have, you be loud, it's fine. All right, this is going to be a video about iPhone 6 backlight, which is one of the worst backlight problems ever. The iPhone 6 backlight failure is not classic like all the other devices. So if you think about a backlight circuit as something that, you know, starts with a backlight driver chip, and then there's some capacitors, there's a diode, and then that line, that trace in the board goes out to the connector, there's a filter and the connector, that's the circuit. In most devices, the failure happens out at the connector, where like iPad mini, you have the battery is connected, and then all of a sudden the screen itself, when being plugged in or unplugged, will short that backlight voltage to ground, and that short, you know, a short circuit, when you have a voltage in a line that's suddenly given a path to ground, that is the same thing as slamming the brakes on a car going down the highway. And that energy has to go somewhere. So in a typical backlight failure, the problem, the short, is out at the connector, and what happens is that energy kind of pops the backlight filter. So the backlight filter acts like a fuse to protect the rest of the circuit behind it. In the iPhone 6, that's not how they fail. They sometimes fail like that, but more classically, the failure, the short to ground, is internal to the circuit. So the backlight filter doesn't have a chance to act like a fuse and protect the circuit. So let's take a look real quick at a backlight circuit. Let's see, screenshot. Let's see if you guys can see that. All right, here we go. This is iPhone 6, you know, here's the beginning. This is the backlight driver. So there's a driver chip. There's the input is from the regular old VCC main voltage, and then there is a backlight coil. And here's the deal, even the coil can experience this, you know, damage from a massive short to ground. So it's never the coil concept for backlights in iPhones is going to dry up here. Here's the backlight diode, and then you've got some smoothing caps out here, and then this is the outgoing backlight line. So this line now is going to leave the area with the diode, these caps, the chip and the coil, and it's going to go out to the connector. So if we follow that a little bit more, let's see if we can find backlight underscore anode. Let's see, here it comes from that area through. This is the anode line filter. There's another little cap here, and then it goes on, test point. Oh, find yourself. Here we go. And then it comes into the connector. So backlight filter, then into the connector. So given that sort of, you know, basic structure, let's start talking about some backlight failure. So I have two iPhone 6s here for backlight failure, and it's really complex because when the short happens, it's usually happening on the capacitors that are sort of near the CPU, you know, at some distance from the filter and the connector. And then that causes a whole big thing, you know, which can take out all kinds of parts of the backlight circuit. Let's look at this. There's this sort of classic one that I just started working on that I wanted to show you. But I wanted you to look here with me at a native one. This one I haven't looked at. This one I just opened up. So this is an iPhone 6 coming in for no backlight. I actually didn't even test to make sure that it is legitimately a no backlight. But this is what an iPhone 6 LCD connector area looks like. And the backlight filter, so if we kind of work backwards, this is the LCD connector, and this is going to be the backlight pin. And the backlight line then extends from this pin to the backlight filter. So we can kind of scrape off this little silicone coating waterproofing and take a look at the backlight filter. And that backlight filter looks good. So the rest of the line then from the filter is underneath this CPU shield. And so it's going to be sort of in this area right here. So let's go back, and since we have a piece of the line, we can at least test the line itself for short to ground. So we can take our multimeter and put it on a quick dirty continuity test to see if we have continuity to ground on that line or not. So we should not have a path to ground, so let's find out if we do. With one probe on ground, let's touch it. And there you go. This does have a short to ground. So this one has a full short to ground in that backlight line. So let's, now we have no choice. We're gonna have to take a look at some of the rest of the components that are in that line. So we're gonna pop off this shield, and I'm gonna just do it to get information in frame here, which might not be the best thing, but we'll do it anyway. Okay, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of quick hot heat to get this CPU shield off very quickly. Oh shit, that's not on hot. I turned it down. Alright, well, let's get some actual quick hot heat and get this shield off without roasting the board here. Alright. And let's see what we can see. Alright, so in this one, we can see the backlight diode right here has a big hole in it, so that's obviously blown up. And we can fillet away some of this coating on these. These are the 1, 2, 3 smoothing capacitors that are from our schematic. Let's go ahead and clear those up a little bit. And now, I really don't know why this backlight circuit shorted. It's possible that, that there was a sort of common injury out at the connector, and that for some reason the filter is just, too strong and it doesn't sort of blow when it should. This is very, very low heat that I'm using to just take off the, this silicone coating so we can see this stuff. Now this is a fun thing here. In general, let's think about what could be the cause of the short to ground. We know that there's a short to ground in this line. And let's confirm that. So these 3 caps, let's go back to screenshot. Here's our screenshot. Let's follow our line. Here's our backlight driver, and 1, 2, 3, here's our 3 caps. They're on the backlight line. This line is shorted to ground. We already know that because we tested it out at the filter and at the connector. So that by definition means that these 3 caps are going to be shorted to ground because they're on that line. So let's confirm that. And of course they are. Now we don't know what is the cause of the short to ground, and this is so huge. This is, I kill myself doing a practical board repair school to get this concept across that that now we know the line is short and what could be the cause of the short in that line. So a short, when I say short, we mean short to ground. There's continuity to ground. There is a path to ground. So what kind of a thing could become shorted? Can a coil, for example, be the cause of the short to ground? So let's look back at our screenshot here. Can this coil be shorted to ground? No, because it itself cannot fail in a way that would create a short to ground. There's no path to ground here. This thing could not become shorted to ground unless you soldered a wire to there and ground. So that thing really can't be a possible short to ground. So what could be a short to ground? If you look around to say, could the diode itself be the cause of the short to ground? No, because it itself has no path to ground. Could this capacitor itself have failed in a way that it is the cause of the short to ground? Yes, because capacitors can fail to create a short to ground. What about this chip? Could this chip have failed in a way that would cause it to be the cause of the short to ground? Yes, because the chip has a path to ground, so it could fail in that way. So out of all of these things, we just kind of have to, at some point, just start to guess, like which one do we think could be the cause of the short to ground. And I don't know how this, initially happens. However, I have started making some observations, and this is why I wanted to show you what I've found. It's just really wild, especially because I love to pick on Apple and design defects. So here's a different phone. So I'm going to switch out to the phone that I wanted to show you originally. It turns out the one I hadn't seen seems to have the exact same problem. Very classic for the way iPhone 6 backlights fail, which is why these repairs are largely a nightmare. So let's look at this one. So here we are at this other one. This one, interestingly, does not currently have a short to ground. So this is a oops, this is pretty interesting. So I'm going to put my multimeter on continuity mode so that I could detect a short to ground. And this one already has the shields off here. And let's test. Let's beep to ground. Now let's test our backlight line. Quiet. It is not short to ground. And if I go to diode mode and I actually look at sort of a relative measure of resistance to ground, I have normal resistance to ground. So there is no short on this particular line. But let's look and see for visual observation. What does it look like under here? And look at this. This one also has a giant hole in the diode. So the diode is all burned up. And this one, look at the coil. The coil is cracked and just puffed up. And it looks like, it has like a little bit of, like oozy, weeping blood, coil blood crying out of a crack in the top of it, That thing has received a huge insult. Something happened to this that created a really, strong short somewhere. And so let's kind of guess what that is. Now here's the Easter egg that I see so many times. So in this one, I started scraping away, and then I stopped because I wanted to show you guys this in a video. So let's take a really close look here at what I found as I was scraping away this silicone stuff. And you can see in there is a stray piece of solder. Look at that. So that was in there by itself. There's a solder ball. So what the heck is that? And I think that this finding is really common. This is not the first time I've seen this. I've probably seen this over a dozen times, so much so that I've started to look for it. And that little solder ball is not always present, but it's there a lot. And if you kind of have to think about like, well, what is up with that? Where does that thing even come from? If you think about like how are these boards made? So like if you have a bare board, so this is just a bare 5S board, that solder paste is sort of silk screened or printed onto this board, and then components are placed on top of the solder paste. Whole thing goes into an oven, which brings it up to soldering temperatures, and everything gets soldered to the board at once. Then it goes to the underfill station, and underfill squirted everywhere, and board is cleaned and tested. At least that's my assumption. I could be wrong. What do I know? I don't work for Apple. So, but you can imagine what would happen if a little bit too much solder paste was placed on some of this, some certain parts. And I think that's probably what's going on with this, weird defect that we're seeing a lot. That these caps are really, look how small they are, kind of close spacing, tight spacing, that during manufacture, this little solder ball just kind of sort of pops up, and sometimes you see it, in different spaces. So all that is well and good until, something happens where, maybe at a screen change or at a small drop, this ball maybe can shift or something, and it can all of a sudden create an actual path for electricity to flow, and that can cause this sort of immediate short to ground. If your screen is on, that's a full, strong short to ground, a lot of voltage. That's a lot of energy that then has to go somewhere, and it wreaks havoc. Look at the coil, you know, and look at the diode. And in this one, just given this physical presentation, there was so much energy there that it puffed up through the magnetic coating of the coil. I'm gonna guess that that also really messed up the backlight driver chip. Maybe not, but I bet that it has a good chance that it did. So in addition to, you know, having to correct all that, I'm gonna have to, you know, put in a new chip. And then the real drag of it is that sometimes we're finding that these insults actually tear up traces internal to the board, and then you'll end up putting all this work into it and getting it to the point where you see backlight, but it can't slide all the way to full brightness. So it's lost the ability back at the chip. Something in here, whichever one of these data lines that are modulating the brightness can't work anymore, probably because something either at the chip downstream, like the CPU, or the trace in the board itself is potentially destroyed. All right, so now let's see what it takes to fix these. These things are a real nightmare, and honestly, I just wanted to kind of, you know, share this finding with you so that you didn't go out and quote backlights for iPhone 6 or think, oh, it's just a backlight, you know, we're charging $200 for this repair because it's a giant pain in the ass, you know. So it is, you know, again, one of my sort of least favorite repairs. All right, so let's start tackling this then. So this one, in the very least, you know, has a bad diode. This one's actually here because the guy wants data. So we're gonna, and he wants to be able to leave with the ability to like see his texts and things. So we'll just clear out that little solder doohickey. Let's look at it like examining a dead bug. There it is. Don't know where you came from, bro, but can't stay here. And that seems like, you know, definitely loose and wiggly on that. Yep. Let's go ahead and take him off. All right. Okay, so to get this one, you know, since it does not have a short to ground, we at the very minimum need to just replace the backlight diode and then see what we have and go from there. And put back whatever we need just to get this guy enough light to get his data. The other one is here for repair. All right, let's... And with that, you know, like if it's here for data, I kind of suggest that you don't even bother with a backlight repair. Because putting heat on a board, especially right next to the CPU, is risky and unnecessary for data. Put that out of here. Now diodes have an orientation, so you have to really pay attention to that. I have the CPU shielded with some heat sink in the form of a quarter. I don't like that stray guy going wherever he wants. Alright, I'm just going to tin these pads and we'll put a new diode in there. Okay, now I'm gonna actually go grab a diode. A lot of people ask me about parts, and I really love this part kit that my teammate Mark Schaefer from iPad Rehab made. We sell this at the Practical Board Repair School course, and then we also Mark sells this kit through Jason at microscopesupply.com, which I highly recommend. Jason is my summer intern last year, and Jason recently took a new job, which I'm sure all of you guys will find out about what that is coming up soon. And so Jason's been doing supply for board stuff for everybody and doing a fantastic job. So Jason is selling Mark's kit through his website, and I really like it because it has every common connector, every common chip that you need, and then I just kind of refill it as I go. So, and he just did a great job like labeling them. Like the backlight diode on the iPhone 6 Plus is the same as the iPhone 5C and 5S, but it's not the same as the iPhone 6. Touch IC. Here we go, backlight diode, iPhone 6, D1501, so you can match it up to the schematic. And super handy, because I like to, I'll do work here at the shop, and then I have a setup at home, and I'll take stuff home, and it's really nice to have that little kit. So shout out to Mark on that. He's not really big on making kits. He does it under duress, and our priority is to make sure we have enough of them to sell to the Practical Board Repair School students. So he's selling them for I don't know, $350, something like that, and short supply, definitely. Okay. So now here we are back at the microscope, and we're gonna pop this dude in here and see what happens. My guess is that nothing will happen because this one almost certainly needs a backlight driver chip. And if that's the case, I'm gonna, I think, put it aside and talk to the guy first, because I want to make sure that he doesn't want to just have us do data and take a risk on this blowing up his CPU or not working. Okay, so let's go ahead and put this back down. Oh, I forgot these tweezers stick. Oh, wrong tweezers. Okay. We'll let that cool off. Well, meanwhile that's cooling off, let's go back to our one that did have a short. So this one is fun because all these backlight, full short to ground iPhone 6 backlights, the failure is almost always one of these three caps. And then it's sort of just like playing roulette. So last time when Mark was here doing the course, we got like margarita o'clock late at night, and everything was was getting crazy. When we do the course, we're teaching the course all day, and then we have to work the queue at night, and gets to be a long week. So we were betting on, you know, which cap do you think is going to be the cause of the short? Because it could be any of them. Only one is likely the cause of the short. So is it the top, the middle, or the bottom? And I picked the top, and he picked the bottom. And you know, we were betting things like, if I'm right and it's the, you know, the top, then tomorrow during the course you have to start speaking in tongues randomly. And I forget what his was, but we ended up both losing. So let's guess. I'm gonna guess on this one. Let's see. I'm gonna guess. I have a feeling that I have a feeling it's this one, totally randomly. We'll see. So let's take that one off first. Now, if it's for the sake of the repair, for the sake of the device, then you need to, you know, put it back when you're done. I'm going to shield this power button here. So if this one is the cause of the short, then taking it off will relieve the short. And if not, then taking it off does nothing. All right. Now let's find out. Is the short gone? Yes or no? Alright, here we go with probe 1 ground. So now I don't have to test in the spot. I can test anybody on the line. Let's hear. Are you still short? Yes! I guessed it! Woohoo! So it beeps on one side and not on the other side. And I can look over and I can see that my resistance on the multimeter in diode mode is normal. So that means we have found the cause of the short, so yay, and we've relieved the short. And just to sort of prove just how shorts work again, that means the whole line is no longer short. So if we go back here to the connector, we will not get a beep. Quiet. Ah, the lovely sound. Oh, can you see that? The lovely, lovely sound of not a short. No short, and no short here on that either. And yes, ground on the end of the connector. So no more short to ground, hooray! And you're still not going to have a backlight on this one either, unless we replace this diode. And this time, let's see if we can be a little bit less aggressive and just grab him off with the iron. And maybe we can fix 2 backlights here. This one I think has a much higher chance of actually being fixed because I don't see any damage to the coil. So that tells me that the overall insult was less. This is one of the rare times where a Barlow lens really is helpful. You know, I kind of end up kind of working here on the side, like heavily tipped up, just to get this guy off. I don't have any clue if you guys can see that or not, but that's the best that I can do for showing you what we're working on. Alright, tin that up a little bit, and it will look the same as the other one. Just 2 different strategies. A lot of times there's no one right way. This one is a little less aggressive with heat. which is a good thing if you don't anticipate having to replace that backlight driver chip. This one we can try to get away with not. So. I want the new diode to be able to have a nice clean spot to sit down on, though. I also want to just check to make sure that the coil side of the diode is not short to ground. And it is not. Okay. Alright, so now this one's ready for a new diode. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit more tin on these pads. Thinking about doing some other videos that are not related to board repair, just kind of fixing stuff that I think women should be confident and know how to fix, like your dishwasher. My dishwasher today shit the bed, and you know, you gotta figure out how to open that sucker up and clean out the chopper. Sunday was over here tonight, and she was saying that her dishwasher smells like dead people, and her old dishwasher also smelled like dead people. So she's pretty sure that it is not the dishwasher, it's something in the lines. So I thought maybe we should go over there and try to fix Sunday's dishwasher and just see what happens. Alright, I can't resist using a little bit of heat. It shouldn't take too much because now that's leaded, to get that to sit down super nice. Okay. All right, now let's go back and see what the result is on our first one. So we'll take a good screen, which I guess will be this one. And let's see what happens. So this is the one that did not have the short. But the diode was royally burned up. Coil was clearly injured. So something had been going on there. My guess is that this isn't going to show a backlight right now without having to also replace that backlight driver chip. But sometimes you get lucky. Let's find out. So I don't see anything yet. So this looks like no backlight. Let's give it a second. I don't see anything. I'm going to switch it out and just make sure it is actually booting. This is not a known good screen either. That's the customer screen. So let's make sure that we can at least see an image with my no backlight tester screen here. This one's kind of got a little bit of a bend right there. I wonder if that had like evidence of a real strong knock there. All right, now with no backlight, let's take a look. See if we can see an image. Yep, you won't be able to see it, but there's an image there. See if I can hear it detect. I'm going to test it with a known good battery because it may be just showing a low battery image. Ah, man, my known good battery is up at the front. Let's grab it. The other known good battery is in the middle of a data recovery right now. So we're gonna skip that. This one is almost known good. We'll let it charge it up. You can see with a bright light the Apple logo. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. So this is still a backlight problem. And I hear it detect. All right, so there's my Apple logo. Oh, God damn it, you still can't see that. There you go. And a lock screen. Maybe that can switch. All right, so that is still a backlight problem. So next step on that one is that we have to go replace the backlight driver IC. And I'm not doing that right now for that one because this is here for data. And data means be the least aggressive as you can because the goal is to get data. So I'm going to have to call that guy and tell him that his best bet is to not have me mess with his backlight if he wants to get data. So we're going to put that one aside. And just to kind of complete things, let's go back to our other phone and give that a shot as well. So let's see what happens with this one. So this one just got a new diode, and this one had sort of the less aggressive presentation. It is the one that did have the short that we relieved. So this one, after relieving the short and putting in a new diode, is that enough? Or is it also going to need a new backlight driver chip? And who knows what else? Let's find out. Oh man, not enough on this one either, and this is why I hate this fucking repair. Boo, boo, boo. No backlight. Detected, no backlight. God damn it. So not enough. So now this one also needs the backlight driver IC chip, which kind of sucks. Let me just make sure. Let me switch out a different screen, and I'm going to definitely rule out screen before giving him a new driver chip. Nope. Backlight problem. Grr. All right. So I think I'm going to make a clip in case this gets to be